It's a response video, I think. Yeah, I feel like it. There's no point in watching a video. Like, I wanted to watch this one, and it probably won't be interesting enough. So, if I'm making a response, then I'll at least be interested enough to watch it. So I'll just cut this into pieces and just respond to his responses to Hythloday's responses. This Hythloday's video was, in my opinion, kind of incomprehensible anyway. Hythloday was sort of conceding the point that, look, life is a contrived chase game. It wasn't built to serve a purpose. There wasn't like the universe had a problem and it said, we have a problem, let's make human beings to fix it. No, there wasn't anything like that. There's just this biological organism thing created as a consequence of this evolution of a DNA molecule. And the game is basically just a war game, contrived war. It's a contrived game, like a game of chess. It's a contrived war, a contrived, let's compete for the sake of it. And that's what it is, except there's no players being entertained. There's no gods getting some benefit out of watching the silly ants, build their towers, and the god knocks them down, and the ants build the and God knocks them down. There's not even that much purpose to this. It's just like sulfur being yellow, right? Life happens under the right circumstances. Molecule replicates, blah, blah, blah. And the rest of it is just yellow. It's just a consequence of the process. Once you put the competitors in the arena, once you build the Colosseum, the war just goes on and on and on. As long as there's a Colosseum, spectators, there'll be a battle. That's it. It's just perfectly circular crap. It's snake eating its tail. Just goes nowhere, all contrived, all built out of a pointless, purposeless momentum. Yeah. So anyway, Hythloday was getting something rational, correct. He used the words like nurture and nature, which I don't even think are applicable or sensible. Your psychology is built by the DNA molecule. Your philosophy is built by the evolution of culture, vocabulary, knowledge, information, science, different thing. But anyway, we won't get into that yet. We'll see where it comes up here, and then we'll, mock it. Anyway, so here's this guy's response to Hythloday's opening, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so DNA has, and maybe you'll say the word imposed purpose upon us, right? If I don't have enough food in me, I will feel hungry, and that's encoded in the DNA. But it's, of course, nature and nurture. Our environment has a lot to do with the choices we make.
It has everything to do with it, pretty much, right? I mean, you're not hungry for something until you're made hungry for something. The environment sort of dictates it. I mean, some organisms are hungry for anything that moves. Some organisms, it's particular foods that they are environmentally exposed to and they will become hungry for, because those are the ones that are working now for their kind. Some have a lot of flexibility, some don't, whatever. But the point is the mechanism will be built in that will encourage you to eat. And it really doesn't matter whether you call it nature or nurture. The fact that you will eat is the fact that's important here. It's the will part. The fact that you will have a will imposed on you, that's what's going to be imposed on you, is a will. What you will, well, yes, that's going to be dependent on whether you're a 21st century man or a 7th century man.
Deciding who we are and what our purpose is. That's a big discussion, but it's not all in our DNA, for sure. There's going to be what he calls psychological purpose, which I'll get into a bit later.
But the origin of the psychology is the DNA, so that's the point that just doesn't matter. I mean, the fact that you have an ego and you enjoy competition is built into you by the DNA. what kind of competitions you'll enjoy, whether you'll enjoy solving mathematical problems or you'll enjoy beating the crap out of little people to gain those ego points or that satisfaction. That will be determined by this nurturing thing. How you navigate the world and what kind of knowledge you bang into that will dispose you to say, no, I won't do that. Even though I enjoy the fantasy of it, I'll never do it because it's stupid. Yeah. So anyway, so he's going to play some Hythloday, so I'll be back soon. Really soon.
No, not all of Maslow's needs are predicated on our biology. Maslow has this like triangle, kind of pyramid-looking thing, and at the bottom of the triangle are these kind of biological needs, like food and shelter and this kind of stuff. And then up on the higher ends of the pyramid are the higher needs that are the most.
Yeah, the higher needs are still lower needs in terms of how they're actualized in the world. Once again, you're still, even if you're going to be altruistic in the world, you're going to be so because you convinced your monkey, the crudest part of yourself, has been convinced that this is the winning strategy. This is how I win. This is how I gain ego points, or I gain meeting up to my standards, however you want, looking myself in the mirror. These things where I will be required to do this, not because I really want to do it, okay, because it's going to be unpleasant, but I will do it because I know it's the right thing to do, and if I do the wrong thing, then I have to wear a spiked jacket. If I do the wrong thing, I will feel the pain of that decision to do the wrong thing for the rest of my life. I will be poked by the understanding that I haven't met up to my standards. I have failed. I am not alpha. I am Zeta.
Or psychological needs, such that, like things like love and self-realization and this kind of stuff. And I pretty much reject Maslow. Basically, if you subscribe to what Maslow says, he basically says that you can't do these self-realization things until the lower needs are met, which would mean that someone that's starving couldn't say, "Oh God, why hast thou forsaken me?" They'd be looking for food. Now, the more
yeah, well, I think that's hardly saying they made much of an effort. So it's clearly, if the higher ambitions like curing cancer, well, clearly you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the infrastructure personally. That means the strength personally, both physical and psychological strength. That means the comfort, the interior comfort, to be able to do this thing where you go to work every day and you study and you think and you analyze and you do all that work. So it'd be kind of silly. So unless you're saying these higher aspirations of life are simpler than the lower ones in terms of their what it takes to achieve them, it's still kind of reasonable to say, yes, you got to do the bottom of the pyramid first.
more these lower needs are met, the more time we have to spend on love and self-realization and this kind of stuff. But it's not predicated upon it.
Well, I think time is pretty much the magic ingredient for everything. So the more time you have to exercise on anything, to apply to any circumstance, probably the better your result is going to be.
As far as I understand the word predicated.
Okay, I'll be back.
So now Hythloday is making the distinction between biological needs and psychological needs. And this is a big part of the antinatalist argument, the asymmetry part of the antinatalist argument.
I don't know if you're really going there. The asymmetry part is that there's no real value to satisfying a need that doesn't need to exist. And that if you have the opportunity to get rid of cancer by sacrificing something not needed, yeah, that would be a bargain.
Where, basically the antinatalists will say, things that are filling some biological need, are just filling that need. It would be better if that need didn't exist in the first place. And then things beyond that aren't fulfilling a specific need.
Yeah, so again, I don't know if you're going to articulate what these things would be that aren't filling a need. So again, I can make the argument that, look, at 98% or whatever the number you want to apply are going to be clearly things where you will feel good because something bad has been extracted from your environment or yourself. And that's just the fact that most of our pleasures are in fact getting away from the deprivations of loneliness or humiliation or some negative thing, and you're erasing it or compensating for it with some event that takes place in your existence. So you in fact need to fix something. We're fixing problems. We're gratified through the repair of a brokenness, not some pure absolute profit.
Well, if there's no need and there's no purpose, therefore it's just kind of superfluous.
Need doesn't mean purpose. So again, you got to be a little bit more careful about language, right? Because you have a need does not mean the need it deserves gratification. There's no purpose in actualizing a need to rape.
Happiness. And I would disagree with this. I would say that happiness beyond filling needs isn't superfluous.
Happiness beyond fulfilling needs. So again, articulate one of these. Explain one of these things that you have where you say you can be in some state where you're not in a less than idyllic state, yet you're capable of being pleased. So you're perfectly satiated, you're visually stimulated, you're whatever, and there's yet something you're going to tell me that, oh, we'll just make it all that much better. I suppose it's possible to say that even when we're in bliss, you can't put one more banana in the banana split or something. But I just don't think those kinds of marginal improvements have any real substantive relevance to the conversation. The conversation is about the basic nature of existence. The basic nature of existence is you're a tool-equipped machine playing a game to replicate, to improve the diagram of the machine, to make a better blueprint of machine. And that's what we're doing. And we're doing it in this crude and stupid manner where, again, it's just about winning. It's not about accomplishing something. We're not building something with this individual winning. We're, in many cases, people are destroying civilization by acting on their self-interest. They're making it more expensive to exist with their shysterism and their deception and their crookery. Personal gain, yes, at the cost of social advancement.
It's surplus, and that surplus has...
Okay, so again, you're saying the surplus exists. There's such a thing in our real lives that I somehow have an experience that I go put it over there and I'll go rub up against it later. Yeah, sorry, no sale.
Happiness is the purpose.
Well, I don't know. Let's play that again. Something is the purpose.
It's surplus, and that surplus happiness is the purpose.
Surplus happiness is the purpose. So, okay, now this is supposed to be the counter-argument. This is the counter-argument to the Benatar asymmetry, which basically says that, not having a pleasure is diametrically, imbalancely to the idea of negating or getting rid of a pain. That the getting rid of a pain or preventing a pain is a real value, where if you lose a pleasure and don't replace it with a pain, with a deprivation, so the pleasure just doesn't exist. You just get rid of the deprivation and the pleasure together as a whole. That's the asymmetry. One leaves something a void, one does not. I mean, you just don't need pleasures that aren't needed. So they can't be compensation for unsatisfied desire are uncorrected deprivations.
Yeah, that you wanted to build it. Whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to go away. Yeah, I'll be back.
So, this part, what he was saying was...
Yeah, not too good a place to stop if you don't know what he's saying. He was saying the purpose is made out of the need to satiate a negative condition is essentially what he was saying, I think.
That when you have a want, he says, then you have a deficit, that that your want must be fulfilled, and so it's kind of a debt to yourself to fulfill that want. Now, this debt is a little bit different than other debts. When I go in,
I don't think there's any difference whatsoever. I think we can feel just as bad about our own negative condition or our own poverty or somebody else's poverty. They can have the same kind of dissatisfaction feeling about me being, uncomfortable because I'm poor, or watching my sister be uncomfortable because she's poor. So I don't accept that premise.
pay my mortgage, for instance, it's not that fun. But when I fulfill a debt to myself of want, then I'm getting what I want. It is fun. So
A debt of myself of want, it is fun. So again, what does that mean? Yes, it's fun when you satisfy a negative condition. It's fun to pull thorns out of your winky. Yes, it's not fun to have the thorns put there in the first place. You're not counting the part where you were brought into the world a need machine. You're just talking about the profit of pulling, the cactus spears out of your ass, rather than talking about the process that put them there in the first place.
it's very different than what we would think of normally as debt. Let's say I want something and I can't get it. Let's say I was driving by Piero's house and I was like, wow, that house is awesome, and it's unlikely I'll ever be able to afford such a place. Well, at least I'm no worse off than I was. I still have my house.
Well, that's a question, isn't it? Psychologically, one could argue that this is a real dilemma for life, because basically much of our comfort is dictated by what we're surrounded with, so it's all kind of relative. So many of us would feel okay about ourselves if we're in an environment where everybody else is a colossal failure. Well, then you can feel good about being a failure. So you could argue that people, sometimes in the worst kinds of conditions, have very good self-esteem because they can still relatively say, well, I'm doing better than that asshole. And somehow that works for us psychologically. It's sad that it does, but it does.
This is fine. Just because I don't have a bigger house doesn't mean I'm any worse off than my starting point. So it's all kind of...
Yeah, I know, but this any worse off this is where the whole relativistic argument goes nowhere. Because again, I can just say, okay, it's better to have just one broken leg than two broken legs. And I can say, well, two broken legs is better than two broken legs and a broken arm. Oh, well, that's better than... And once we start doing these relative comparisons, and then we can make it magnificent to have the plague and you're going to die in 2 days. You're going to live, you're going to have a baby that dies in 6 months, and what you're going to do? Oh, I'll just compare it to the people who had a baby that died in 3 months. So as soon as you start going down to this, how low can we go? Yes, you'll go all the way back to cockroach. Bugs think they're winning. They do. They probably have some kind of notion in their, in their psychology going, I'm doing it, I'm making it, I'm making it.
Relative thing of some starting point of however good I am.
I mean, you think salmon are probably feeling all full of themselves as they're swimming up that stream, right? Thinking, well, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm jumping the water, man. I'm jumping the rocks. Hey, I missed that. Hey, that bear missed me. Hey, I'm winning. You're not winning. Yeah. They're going to get so fucking foobarred.
Right now, and I could be better than that, or I could be worse than that. It's all relative to where I am right now.
But yes, the actual value isn't relative. Your perceptions end up being relativistically slanted because you're living in a cartoon perception, a perception where you refuse to accept the actual world, and you keep just comparing yourself to Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Okay, I'll be back.
So last week, Hythloday was talking about values, and he had a scale going along below it here, and he's putting cupcakes on the happy side of the scale, and nails on the sad side of the scale. It's that old cupcake versus nail in the eye argument.
To be honest, he did not identify the scale. He didn't say there was a middle, a zero, and he was putting things on plus and minus. He just pointed out it's a scale.
Now, here he's saying that there is no positive side of the scale because it's the psychological wants. And so we can never get above that 0 point. Now, the thing is,
you're always going to be correcting for hungers, deprivations, desires. These are contrived senses of need. And you want to call them something else, fine. I'm just saying that in most cases it's only through psychology that and the fact that we have been so low that we can think we're winning when we're, if you're swimming in the cesspool, under the water of the cesspool, if somebody lets you swim on the surface, you're going to feel as if this is win. But you're still in a lose condition. I mean, you're only going to feel the benefit. But you're not winning. Winning might be the wrong word. You are improving your condition, but you haven't created a condition that is positive. You're still just trying to get less negative.
is we can always be better off than we are right now. We can always be worse off than we are right now.
Well, frankly, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if is that really. There's nobody who can't it doesn't have it so bad that you really can't pile one more piece of dust on him without him blowing up. So I don't think that's exactly true.
If you give me a cupcake, I'm like, great. If you give me a second cupcake, I'm like, even better. Now, so
they're not getting to the point, though. The cupcake is satisfying a need, a contrived need. The cupcake has no real value. You're projecting its value because you need it, not because it has value. Again, it's why are you chasing it is the question, and it's not a good answer.
there's no point of satiation, and it can be taken to ridiculous extremes because of trade. And trade is what makes this possible. Let's say my whole house was filled with cupcakes. My yard, it was filled with cupcakes up to the sky. And you came up to me and said, hey, want a cupcake? I would still take that cupcake because of trade. Because I could trade 100 cupcakes for a gold nugget. And then I could trade 1,000.
Well, whatever. I don't see how this is at all applicable to anything about what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that you have a need for something and that you can't use some other satisfaction of that need. Like somehow I put 3 Band-Aids on a wound. Somehow I can store that away to prevent a future wound. Like, because I have 3 Band-Aids on that cut, I won't get another cut in the future. Or somehow those Band-Aids will work on this wound in the future. That's kind of silly. So again, these are metaphors used. Cupcake was a metaphor for feeling good. It wasn't a metaphor for cupcakes have real value. It's about creating the sensation of comfort. And you can't store that in a silo somewhere.
Cupcakes for 10 gold nuggets. So because of trade, more is always better. I can always be better off than I am right now. I can always be worse off than I am right now. If there was someone that was really suffering and I kicked them, then I could kick them again. I could just keep kicking this poor suffering child that's in the body of Omaha. So if there's no limit on happiness, then there's no such point that I can't go beyond.
There's no limit on happiness. Well, again, who said there was no? That's a false premise. right there. You're the one saying you're going to store it away somewhere, that you're somehow going to acquire things, and that you're going to put them somewhere, like money, so that when some bill comes up, you'll spend the money on the bill. But that's, again, not how life works. Life doesn't give you a capacity to store away, capacity to heal the wounds that will come up in the future. It's not going to give you some sort of, I had this experience and therefore I can throw this experience in my head, and then later when I need it, I'll pop that experience out to wipe it on this wound. That isn't likely to have much value. Certainly you can, on a personal level, we can all express certain strategies to live our lives to be less vulnerable to the need states created. We can be less hysterical and less vulnerable to emotional pain. But certain realities, brain tumor, are brain tumor. And no matter how many cupcakes you have in your closet, you're not going to trade for a cure.
Be a limit, right? If the limit is 0 and there's no limit, then I'll just go past 0.
Well, again, I don't know who agreed to that premise. If there's no limit, there clearly is limits. There's satiation. Once you're satisfied, you hit a point called bliss. You crash into it. And if you're lucky, you can have some sustained moments in life, perhaps hours at a time, where you're in a quite comfortable state, where you wish nothing to interrupt that perfection of thought and physical environment. But it is known, as I have experienced, you will have the thought while you're there, I just won't be able to hold on to this. You know, reality is going to leak into this perfect. And somebody's going to fart. Something's going to happen. It's going to go away.
And that's why the asymmetry argument doesn't work.
Well, frankly, I don't see how you've undone the asymmetry argument with this. Absolutely. This is just goddamn empty nothing. So show me these wonderful experiences. Show me this stuff that makes up for the kid with cancer. Like I said, I could just make it one kid with cancer, and I don't think if you actually had to do it, you actually had to give the kid cancer. I don't think you could name something on this stupid planet that would be worth actually giving a kid cancer. So the kid wouldn't have cancer, but he will have cancer because that thing exists. I don't think you can come up with one positive thing, one truly positive thing. Not something that's absolutely necessary, like highways or something. Not one truly positive thing, in and of itself positive, not correcting for any negative situation, that could possibly be worth one child having cancer. Not one of your surplus events. Name me one of them. Name me one.
Because there's no limit on being better off. You can always be more better off.
Well, whatever. That's just silly. Frankly, it's just such a silly state. Silly. Well, this bit was so short, I might as well play the whole clip.
Intrinsic or absolute nature of those values.
Okay, so that part, this is what I was trying to get to. He says, I admit to the 0 value scale idea, but it's not an intrinsic value, so therefore, what exactly? Now, he hasn't really finished this.
Yeah, that's right. He hadn't finished it. He did say but, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I didn't respond to it, because it's a useless video, because somehow he's going to contradict what he's saying. So what's the point? The very premise of his video, Hythloday, the Antinatalist, is kind of a bogus word, right? I mean, you wouldn't call somebody anti-rape if their opinion on rape was, yeah, I won't rape, but it's okay if everybody else does. I'll advise my son not to rape, but it's okay if somebody else's son rapes. I won't bother saying anything to them. I mean, it's a stupid concept. Personal anything is pretty much stupid. You either believe it or you don't believe it. You either believe it with confidence or you don't believe it with confidence. So if you want to say, I believe it, but I have absolutely no confidence in the concept at all. So I'm antinatalist only by the merest slightest margin. I mean, I just barely tip on it, and so I say it's okay for me, but I couldn't possibly say anything to anybody else because I don't even know if I'm full of shit. So if you want to say you're completely unsure of your philosophical position, fine. But don't pretend there's such a position of, I think it's wrong, but it's okay if they do it. Yeah, that's just stupid. You either know it's wrong or you don't know it's wrong. But to say it's okay for them to do wrong and it's not okay for you to do wrong is just as stupid as this whole concept of saying my satisfaction means more than their satisfaction. Because it goddamn doesn't.
The series yet, so I'm not sure where he's going to get to. But to me, it really seems it doesn't make any sense to be arguing that.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense for any nihilist on the internet to be saying a goddamn fucking thing. Because if they don't think any of it's real, why the fuck are they talking about it? I mean, why the fuck would I care? This is my not real understanding of not real reality. I have a non-real understanding of non-real reality. Here, you want to hear it? No, I want to hear that even less than the story of the three bears. I guess it's Goldilocks' story, but regardless, I don't want to hear the story from either side. Goldilocks' or the three bears. If you don't have something better to give me, fuck off.
Right. So, like, if life subjectively sucks, it still sucks. Like if you say, "Hey, let's go see a movie," this movie.
Again, this is totally irrelevant. If life subjectively sucks, that doesn't mean anything, right? It's not a philosophical position. My life subjectively sucks. Well, that's just basically saying, wah, wah. I mean, it's not saying anything. It's just saying me in pain, me no likey, me. Well, fine, but it doesn't say anything about the nature of life. It's not a philosophical statement. What do you want me to do about it is what I'd say. Yeah, I don't. What, you want $50? What do you need? Can I make it not suck? Practically? Then I'll try. But if I can't, yeah, sorry.
Is intrinsically bad. I'd say, well, maybe I don't really want to go see that movie. If you said, hey, let's go watch this movie, it's subjectively bad, you're not going to like it, I'd still say, I don't really want to go see that movie.
I don't know, that doesn't really make sense. So if somebody gave you an opinion that they were generally reliable in their opining on such scientific matters, and they said the movie is fundamentally incapable of being of good entertainment quality. It lacks all components of entertaining quality or inspiration by scientific, analyzation. Analyzation? That's not quite right, but it doesn't matter. Analysis. That should mean a little bit more to you than somebody just saying, I saw that movie, I didn't like it. Yeah, those two things should mean something different.
Let's go see Mad Max instead. So I don't really know what the point is if the value is subjective or intrinsic. If it sucks, then
Well, if it's subjective, who the fuck cares is the point. So the difference between a subjective, non-authoritarian, non-authorized, non-qualified, non-relevant to the rest of the world opinion versus one that is all of those things, that is making a description of the fundamental nature of something, not how I feel about it, but what it is. Those are fundamentally different statements. So yeah, if somebody's going to talk about their personal opinion, bouncy, they like the color pink, yeah, I just couldn't care less. But if they're going to show me how the color pink is really a mind control drug, well then I might be interested. Because now they're saying something about the color pink that means something. But just saying I likey, yeah, that don't mean shitty.
But the thing is, life doesn't have to be perfect to be worthwhile.
Well, it's not even the point. The point is whether you have a right to tell somebody else what is worthwhile. Right there is one point. So you're not even close to getting to the imposition argument. But it does, in a sense, have to meet a standard. So whether you want to now say that the Benatar argument's talking about perfection, no, it's not talking about perfection. It's talking about the difficulty of compensating for real negatives. and that it's very hard to compensate for real negatives with your pleasure. You can't just go around saying, I feel good, therefore that fixes somebody feeling bad. Because rationally, I think you know better. You've kind of used up the value of your pleasure by satisfying your own needs. And that's really what you've done. And that you're usually doing that at some expense. Like I said, if you could sit there and tell me, I'm just living in space and I'm not imposing on anything whatsoever, then I guess I could say, well, and you have some wacky notion in your head that it's worthwhile, well, go ahead, float in space and do your little self-masturbatory thing of gratifying yourself in some sense. But don't tell me that you can make victims, that you can cause suffering and pain, and then tell them, hey, I'm worth it. I don't think you're worth it. I don't think you can prove you're worth it. Not even close.
You're never going to have all your wants and desires met. That's okay.
Says you, again. That's your standard, okay? You want to live in a shithole. You can't have all your food without turd in it. You can't have all your capitalist fun without a few ruined and decapitated victims. Well, that's your standard, shithead. It's not my standard. The fact that you have low standards is, in my opinion, a fundamental flaw in your basic brain psychology and philosophy. The fact that you think you're worth it.
For me, the is-ought gap is breached by when the benefit is bigger than the cost.
Okay, well now you're heading somewhere. So go ahead, show me. Show me the benefit worth one kid getting goddamn cancer that wouldn't get cancer otherwise. Go ahead, show it to me. Show me the positive benefit. Like I said, don't show me the work done to cure cancer, because obviously that would prevent more harm than the one kid being tortured with cancer. Show me a benefit. Show me a thing being done by human beings right now that would be worth one kid with cancer. Explain to me how American football is worth paralyzing whatever horrible number of children every year. Go ahead and explain to me, all those kids in wheelchairs, just explain to me how there's something about American football that's worth it. Go ahead, give it a shot. I don't think you got a chance in hell. Show me how it's anything but a lie people tell themselves. Show me how there's anything other but a silly addiction to a silly nonsense, and that it's a huge, gigantic waste of human suffering. Show me how it is not a huge waste of human suffering to be addicted to this silly sport.
That's basically it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than it is bad. So
better than it is bad. Better than it is bad. Yeah, so again, you're going to tell me what these betters are, though. Rainbows are worth it. What? Peanut butter is worth it. What?
So, that's pretty much what I have to say, and I look forward to any responses I might get on this. Again, thanks for your time, and thanks for your views.
Okay, but you didn't really say anything terribly useful, so that's... Sorry, but yeah, there's not much of a... It's no, where's the beef? Okay, where's the beef? Kind of a lamb sandwich. Lamb sandwich. Lame sandwich. Okay, anyway. Till next time. Such. So Hythloday did make his own response, where he's apparently eventually going to explain this. See, I am antinatalist personally. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think I shouldn't do wrong, but other people can do wrong. I mean, it's just basically all he's really saying is, I've come to the point where I don't want to have little spawny-ates. It's inconvenient to my current comfort. Well, that's fine, but that's not antinatalism. So I think it's just kind of silly. Yeah, I think it's very silly. Well, I've already been over it, so there's no point in repeating myself, right? No. So I'll be back next time.